Greetings, programs, and welcome to a new episode of the Awesome Friday podcast. This is Sunday, March 19th, both for recording and release, which is unusual for us. I am your host, I'm Matthew, and with me as always is Simon. Say hello, Simon.
Hello. And thanks for joining us if you joined us for the live Oscars for our live blog last week. And what's really nice about the Oscars this week is that, last week rather, is that they seem to get it right? They seem to get everything right. Usually when the Oscars finishes, I'm angry or sad or pissed off at something. And I don't think there was a bad winner in there. What do you think?
Yeah, my hot take is that there were no bad winners at the Oscars this year. I know there's some consternation online about Jamie Lee Curtis winning over Angela Bassett, and I see that. I don't think that Jamie Lee Curtis was an undeserving win, but I definitely get why people would be disappointed that Angela Bassett did not. Mm-hmm. And there's the ongoing Oscars so white stuff. Like, honestly, having seen a lot of movies last year, I don't know why Andrea Riseborough would be nominated for Best Actress. Not to say that she's bad, but why would you nominate her and not, like, Regina Hall? Like, there's definitely, like, I said this on our, so recently I recorded a clip for our friends at Classic Movies Live, just talking about the Oscars. I recorded it the day before the Oscars. And one of my points about the Oscars, and one of the things that's helped my opinion about the Oscars, is to just realize that it's just a regional awards show.
It really is. Yeah.
It's, it's not they are not the arbiter of taste or quality even. So it's just a popularity contest. It's again, the biggest regional popularity contest, but it's just a regional popularity contest. So that has also helped me with my, my reaction to these things. But yeah, I mean, every single winner this year was entirely deserved. And watching Everything Everywhere All at Once clean up in almost every category that it was nominated in, with 7 wins and all of the above the line nominations that it had. And it's the first movie to win 3 acting awards since Network in '76. And whether or not you like that movie, and I have a hard time understanding people who didn't like that movie, but that's another discussion. Taste is taste. But just watching that movie clean up to me is important because it means that more movies like it might get made.
Yeah.
So,
and whatever Daniels makes next is going to have an open budget. Like, they're not going to be restrained for whatever they want to do next.
I mean, they're not exactly restrained now, but I take your point.
Well, they're not restrained by money anyway.
Yeah.
I wish there had been some way for all 4 of the main cast to win an Oscar. I know it was impossible because Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu were in the same category. And honestly, my only thing I would have changed was Stephanie Hsu winning supporting instead of Jamie Lee Curtis. But I did really, really like. I love Jamie Lee Curtis anyway, but her acceptance speech was about the team, was about the number of people that were brought to that moment, and she thanked the whole cast, and it felt very, very sincere. And
it was also just awesome to watch her hyping up every time anyone won, she was on her feet cheering for them, which was kind of wonderful to watch. And I think that, like, for me, I actually had guessed that Angela Bassett would win for a lot of reasons, for many of the same reasons that probably Jamie Lee Curtis won. The whole legacy in Hollywood type thing. They've been around. They've both been around a long time. They've both done a lot of work. Neither has an Academy Award to their name yet. And I don't know. I mean, again, it just comes down to the marketing campaign, right? Like, I think Jamie Lee Curtis had more people stumping for her, and therefore she won. That's just what it comes down to. It doesn't mean that Angela Bassett was bad in Black Panther 2, because she was not. She was phenomenal.
I think there's an aspect of a legacy award as well, isn't there, with Jamie Lee? Like, she's been in the business for so long now, and I think that does come into play.
I'm sure it does, but I feel like that one is negated by the fact that so has Angela Bassett. Like if that was the reason one of them was going to win, then it was a coin flip for me because they
Yeah,
both
no,
deserve that.
I think it would have been
So
appropriate for both of them. Yeah.
yeah, and I do. I'm the least as a middle-aged, bearded, cisgendered, heterosexual white man. I am the least qualified person to comment on this, but I do get, even though a movie starring Asian actors and featuring Asian cultural diaspora stuff won all these awards, I do get why African American people would feel slighted by the Academy again this year. Because again, like Regina Hall, not nominated, and Angela Bassett, odds-on favorite to win, and lost to a white woman. So I sort of try and see all sides of it, and I don't have the answers. I'm just going to choose to listen to everyone who is more qualified than me to talk about it. Because that's how we
Fair enough.
grow.
Of course.
Yeah.
Talking of
But yeah,
growing, what are we talking?
but overall,
What are we
yeah, great
talking about
show.
this week? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about 2 movies this week. That's actually not as much banter as usual. Let's dive right into it because I feel like
Oh, okay.
we're going to talk for a long time or not about both
Yeah.
of these movies. Um,
Yeah.
so, normally on this show, when we pick 2 movies to review, we like to choose a theme. And the theme of this week's show is brotherhood. And the first film in our themed show
How?
is the 2023 raunchy comedy release, Cocaine Bear. So let's dive into it.
Um,
Where should we
can
even
I
start with
can I
Cocaine
can I
Bear?
can I begin? But can I begin with a clarification? I'd like to challenge you
Yeah,
on your use of the word comedy. I would like to challenge your terminology here.
I mean, I laughed 4 or 5 times. 4 or 5.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
4 or 5 times less than I did.
yeah. I
Amazing.
understand that you hated this film, and
I
I
hated this
that's
film. Okay,
yeah.
so what's the synopsis of Cocaine Bear? Go for
Well, a drug
it.
dealer drops a bunch of cocaine in a forest, and a bear does that cocaine.
Yes,
Um, that's
based on a true,
that's basically the whole story.
based on a true story. Except in the true story, the bear did all the cocaine and died pretty much instantly of cocaine, which would have
Yeah.
been a more entertaining movie to watch a bear dying slowly for 90 minutes of cocaine abuse.
Wow. Like
A real
don't
like that if
don't
they got a
sugarcoat it,
real
man. You tell us
it,
exactly how you
it
felt. Don't sugarcoat it for us.
if they had skimped on the CGI and got a real bear and raised it from childhood to be an adult bear purely so they could give this bear an actual cocaine overdose and then film this bear convulsing into death, into a painful death, it would have been a funnier fucking movie than the movie we got.
That's
Woo! Okay.
that's a little dark, man. That's a little dark. That's maybe too dark. Maybe I think you need to like just
No, I mean
take a
I'm
deep
English.
breath.
Maybe I'm English. That's not even the tip of the iceberg of where the darkness goes. But I appreciate on Canadian standards that's different. Look, a comedy, right? A comedy at its central why does it exist? Is to be funny, and to be funny, you need a director who understands comedy. You need a script that has jokes in it that are funny, and you need an editing that cuts those jokes together, right? These are the basic tenets of a comedy, and this film is filmed as a ridiculous comedy. It's not necessarily like a Sharknado or a Meg over the top monster movie, which would have been great.
Oh no.
It
This
is
is
filmed as a
definitely
comedy.
this is definitely more of a snakes on a plane than it is either of
Yes,
those things.
it's
And
a
I will
meme in film clothing.
I will say that it is not, um, as a person who didn't hate it, it is not like there's definitely a few moments that are laugh worthy. Most of them come in the first half, and actually, I do think that the film sort of blows its load. With there's an action sequence. There's an action sequence in the middle that's by far the best thing in the movie, which features none of the main characters except for the bear. And you've also seen most of in the trailer, unfortunately.
Which scene are you
In
talking
fact,
about?
In fact, the first trailer for this movie is basically this sequence with the ambulance. That is the best sequence in the whole
Oh,
movie.
right.
It is a lot gnarlier in the movie because the movie is R rated, and there's a couple of there's a lot of really gnarly deaths in this movie. Which, if you're into that sort of thing, is probably good. The But mostly it's like the movie is uh, the same scene repeated over and over again. It's people wander into the forest. Oh shit! There's a bear on cocaine. Like, whoa! Isn't it? Look at the bear. Oh, the bear is now killing us. We are being ripped limb from limb.
Which is fine.
Um,
Which is could have been a really funny. If you got Sam Raimi to make that movie, it would have been a good movie. If you got someone who understands how to make a funny, gnarly monster movie,
See, for me, the
could have
problem
been
is
could have
that
been great.
for me the problem is that there's a lot of sequences like that are well, not a lot, but there's a few sequences like that are pretty good. Like the ambulance scene, the opening scene is actually pretty funny. I thought with Christophe Hivju, I think is how you pronounce
I
his name.
I did
Um,
not.
and yeah, I mean, for me the bigger problem is the movie is very, very, very uneven. So there's a few really like standout moments, and then there's a lot of really boring shit. And I don't quite get so like I didn't just to be clear again. I didn't hate this movie, but I did not like it. It's not very good. I don't think. I think there's.
All right.
I can see why some people are enjoying it. There's sort of just enough there that if you put it on in the background while you were doing your Sunday chores, it would probably be fine. But I don't really like. I would say that Snakes on a Plane is even a more coherent movie than this one, or a more
Oh,
consistent one at least.
it's much more enjoyable for sure. Absolutely,
I
because
mean,
again, it's the reason Snakes on a Plane is more enjoyable is because it's made with like a modicum of technical know-how. Like the three main things here: the direction, the script, and the editing are all, particularly the direction and the editing, are all so bad. You'll actually wonder if you fell asleep during. There's a couple of transitions at the end that are so bad you'll wonder if you blacked out for a second and you just sort of did a jump cut in your head. There's and the problem with the direction is beginning and end Elizabeth Banks. Like her only gift to the film world is demonstrating that she can take amazing casts with interesting stories full of potential and just make them the worst directed pieces of shit. If you look at Pitch Perfect 2, I love the first Pitch Perfect. Pitch Perfect 2 is one of the worst sequels I've ever seen. It's just so badly directed. But also, Charlie's Angels, the cast for the Charlie's Angel reboot is phenomenal. I really enjoyed the three women they cast in Charlie's Angels reboot. But it is written and directed and edited in such a ham-fisted way. It's a complete chore to watch, and this is exactly the same. I've I watched the beginning to the end of this movie, just absolutely stunned at how badly made it was, like from front to back. And
it's certainly.
the script is
It's,
awful.
I was certainly going to say that like Elizabeth Banks has no discernible. The politest way to say it would be that she has no discernible voice. Like it's just point the camera and hope for the best. And you're right.
Yeah,
I don't think it's very good. I think that's also. I will say I don't think this is her worst film. I think that Charlie's Angels is probably her best, and Pitch Perfect 2 is probably her worst. And I don't know whether it's just lack of experience or lack of feedback or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't think this is particularly well directed. Um, I think this again, for me the unevenness comes back to the script as well. There's just this is a movie that needs like constant motion, and there's a lot of standing around and talking.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but on the upside, like Margot Martindale is a national treasure, and almost everything she says in this movie I found funny because she's just got amazing delivery. And I also like the one thing that this movie makes clear is well, not the one thing, but one thing this movie helps clarify is that Alden Ehrenreich is a really funny dude, and I really hope that we were finally over the fact that he was in Solo, because I've enjoyed him in this movie. I've enjoyed him in this movie and in another movie this year called I can't remember what it's called. He's in another Netflix movie that's coming out later this year that I saw at Sundance. That I thought was real. I thought he was really, really good in, and he's not working with the best material, but his delivery is often quite good,
So I
even
don't.
when the material itself is quite bad.
That's and on that point, like compare his character Eddie is uh spends a lot of time with David, played by O'Shea Jackson Jr. And can you imagine if the script had had the same kind of life to it as the two hitmen in Bullet Train, which is the same kind of dynamic, like two baddies kind of sniping at each other, trying to get a job done whilst arguing all the time about how to get the job done.
So you
Whereas
forget that I didn't like Bullet Train either. So yeah,
but
I
this
can't imagine
okay,
that because it wouldn't change anything.
but the script, the what the script is actually funny. The Bullet Train lines are actually funny and bouncy and full of energy, regardless of what you think about the movie. These two poor actors who are both fine actors had just the worst fucking. Every joke, every moment landed like a fucking lead balloon. Like it was just awful. It was painful to watch them
No,
have to go through this and make it work. And
I
and
disagree.
also, how do you
So
how do you
honestly,
how do you
I
take
felt
Kerry
exactly the same
Russell?
about I
Well,
felt exactly the
how do
same
you
about
take
Bullet Train, man. So I
how do,
don't have a
how do you take Kerry Russell and Ray Liotta, who it turns out is his final movie, and put them in such a flat, boring, terrible like script and film them so badly? It's just I don't I
I don't
don't
know. I
get
mean,
it.
that happens all the time. Ray Liotta's been in tons of shit, and so is Kerry Russell. That part
Yeah,
doesn't
but
bother me. I mean,
I think you're way more forgiving about this than I am. Like it was just
I do
awful.
watch a lot more films, and I've definitely seen worse films like this calendar year than this. So
I watch a lot of shit, man. Like this is technically technically just abysmal. I can't get over how bad this film is on every level for me.
I don't know. I would say I hold it in roughly equal esteem as Bullet Train, which I did not like.
Whoa, fuck me.
So yeah, I mean, this is just proof positive that our tastes are, pretty divergent when it comes to this kind of thing. So
I
yeah, I don't know. I think there's lots of
I don't
people who
know.
are loving this movie, so there's definitely something there for some of you, but there wasn't for me at least. It's I guess it's fine. I guess parts of it are fine, but it's not a good movie. I didn't enjoy it. Except again for the few things that I've mentioned. Um,
Hmm.
and what's really annoying too, though, is that like as much as I will praise Margot Martindale's delivery earlier in the film, there's a scene towards the end where she ends up doing something utterly ridiculous, and that lands like a lead balloon, and you can just see it coming from a mile
Hmm.
away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because, as with many other things, um, all of the pieces are there for it to be good, and it just doesn't come
Hmm.
together. And for me, that
Yeah.
is
See.
unfortunately a reflection of the director, because that is, the director is the
Hmm.
person who's meant to have the cohesive vision for the film, and I feel like this movie did not have that.
Yeah, this could have been really fun. It could have been a really fun time, and it was just squanders it completely. It's
Yeah, and I feel
in
like
the
kind of like Snakes on a Plane. This is the kind of movie that this time of year with the other options on the same weekend, like it's going to be the one people go see no matter, like just because of what it is, right? Like
hmm.
when Snakes on a Plane came out, you'd bet your ass I was there opening weekend because it was going to be Snakes on a Plane. Like, but
Yeah.
Snakes on a Plane failed because it's actually I kind of appreciate that it exists because it proves you can't intentionally make a bad movie. Like you can't intentionally make a movie that's so bad it's good. Um,
Hmm.
but Cocaine Bear is just like made with probably with good intentions, but just fails unfortunately for
Hmm.
me.
How many stars are you giving the Cocaine Bear?
I will give it one each for Alden Ehrenreich and Margot Martindale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So 2. I'll give it 2. I didn't hate it. I just was disappointed by it, which maybe is worse. I know when your dad says that to you, it's definitely worse, but that's how I feel.
How many times has your dad said this to you, Matt? Do you want to? Let's talk about that, shall we?
No, it's a different podcast. Everyone's dad has said that to them at least once when they've done something idiotic as a teenager, and they say, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed," and it just cuts you
Yeah,
to
I use
your
that
to
one.
the bone, to your
Yeah.
soul, like to the bones of your soul. Just rips out the subcockle region of your heart. But anyway, yeah, two stars, and I assume you're going to give it
Mhm.
1 because that's the minimum.
This no, this is the first time ever that I'm giving 0 stars. So good luck coding that for the site. I don't know how you're going to do that. Letterbox won't let me. It says leaving it unrated. This is the first time I've ever given a movie 0 stars. There is nothing in this film that I would find justifies any star whatsoever.
You know,
I've
there was a
never
film you
ever, I've
so
never
one
ever given
star,
a film.
so
If I
one
gave
star.
this film 1 star, no, it's not 1 star. It's 0 stars. If I gave this film 1 star, it would have the same rating as Knock at the Cabin, and I would watch Knock at the Cabin a million times over watching this movie. It is worse than Knock at the Cabin, which is a 1 star movie. Ergo, vis-a-vis, it's a 0 star movie. This is not a
Right.
1 star movie.
So 1 star because that's the minimum. Gotcha.
No, no, it's a 0 star movie.
So no rating from Simon then. Gotcha.
This no, it's the my rating is 0.
Yeah, no stars. Got it. No rating at
Yes.
all.
Yes, no stars. No.
No
Why are
rating
you
at
being
all.
pissy about this? No.
Gotcha. Look, man, we have established norms, and norms and rules
Yeah.
are what set us apart from the animals.
Zi-
So you can give it
right.
1 star, or you can not rate it.
No, I
Those are your
don't.
choices.
This is the typical Canadian. You have to tip. You give a low tip for bad service. Are you fucking kidding me? You give 0 tip for bad service. You give
Hey, man,
0 stars for a bad movie.
same rules on Letterboxd, man. You can't give a movie 0 stars
I
and
don't give a
take it from
shit.
me.
I don't give a shit. I just have. Watch me. Sue me. Zero
Yeah,
stars.
you know I'm leaving it unrated on the site, right? That's how it's going to work.
No, do whatever you want. It's a 0 star movie.
I do enjoy how passionate you are about this.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I think that's enough of that. I don't. I had such high hopes for Cocaine Bear, but if
Hmm.
you've watched the trailer, you've seen the single best section of the
Yes,
movie.
a-
So
absolutely. The trailer is literally all the interesting parts, and it
yeah,
makes it sound. It makes it look like a really fun time. It's not. Trailers are cut that way for a reason, but it's
that's
all the
true.
fun stuff. Do yourself a favor and do not go and watch this movie. Like, do
Yeah,
literally anything else than watch this movie.
good, awesome. Well,
Okay,
moving on from a
next film.
story about reclaimed brotherhood in the wilderness terrorized by a bear to a film about brothers in the inner cities of Canada. Let's move on to Elevation Pictures' newest release, which by the time you watch this, by the time you listen to this, will be in cinemas, which was a critical darling at every festival that it's played at this year, including VIFF late last year, where we both missed it, as far as I know.
Hmm.
But finally in theaters is Clement Virgo's film Brother. And why don't you give us a rundown on Brother just to help you calm down a little bit?
Right.
Because I can still see that vein in your forehead pulsing.
Unrated my ass. Um, so Brother is a film about two brothers. Michael, the younger brother, played by Lamar Johnson, who was recently seen in The Last of Us, which I didn't realize, and Francis, played by Aaron Pierre, and they both live in. You're gonna have to help me here because I want to say Scarborough because that's how you say that city in my country, but in Canada, do you say
Scarborough.
Scarborough, which is
Scarborough,
a region of or
Toronto.
suburb of Toronto.
Or if you're from
Toronto.
there, so if you're from here, it's Scarborough and Toronto. But if you're from there, it's Scarborough and Toronto.
Okay.
So
Um, and it's a character study basically, and it's told there's three distinct time narratives that, and it jumps between them of Michael and Francis climbing. It begins with Michael and Francis climbing a very dangerous electricity pylon, and then it cuts uh, to the present day where, and this is not a spoiler, but there is a character missing because they and somebody else is grieving over them. If you want to cover all the spoilers, and then it cuts back to the main brunt of the movie is the story of Michael and Francis growing up with their single mother um, in this suburb, trying to make their way through it, trying to keep their head clean, trying to avoid the police, who are obviously horribly racist towards them, and it, the from what you are told, literally within the first couple of minutes, you know this is a story about grief and loss, and part of the story is remembering someone who has died, and so the present day story is Michael dealing with that, with these ghosts from his past, whilst trying to look after his mum. And then we're given the end of the story at the beginning, and then the rest of the movie shows us how they get to that point. And um, it's masterful. I mean, it is a character study. It's completely dependent on its, like Cocaine Bear, its direction, its script, and its acting, and all three of those elements are absolutely on point. Like the acting is superb, and the direction and the pacing really gives the actors time in their scenes to work with their characters. Like the editing's very, very calm, and allows us time with these characters. And I really like the time jump structure. I know some people have problems with that, but I really like. You do have to really pay attention because it's not sometimes not made explicit when it's jumped or when the time shifts, but it is clear if you keep watching as it jumps around. And just watching the older brother Francis, uh, really his anger at his the injustices around him build and build and build as he's trying to look after his much smaller little brother, trying to make money, make his way through the world, trying to um, graduate out of his school, his college degree, and trying to handle their mother as well, who's working all the time. It's really eye opening, and it's one of those movies that I'm a white dude from England. I had no idea. Like, obviously, we have in many inner city stories that are similar that come out of English cinema, but my knowledge of how it works in Canada is obviously much more limited. So it was a real eye opener for me as well to
Turns out
see
it's
so
the
many.
same kind of
Yeah,
everywhere.
that's the to see the exactly the same kind of shit basically, and to see these people go through it. And what I really like about this film is that it's not exhibitionist, it's not performative, it's not like it's shot almost in a way that just feels really real. But on the other, flip side of that is that the visual quality of this movie is amazing. There's some beautiful color themes that run through this movie, and it is just shot and lit like beautifully. I really, really
Yeah,
enjoyed this film.
yeah, it's really well made and really well acted. I think Aaron Pierre and Lamar Johnson are both just utterly magnetic
Mm.
in their respective roles, and I think so. This was directed by Clement Virgo, who is obviously Canadian writer and director, and I think part of what make this better might just be the his particular resume. He probably most famously directed. He worked on The Wire for HBO. He worked on The Book of Negroes for CBC. He recently directed a couple episodes of that Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which, as a total side note, is the dumbest fucking title for a show ever. Um, but like he's got a longer um, he's got a longer resume and a very relevant resume to the subject matter at hand. And it feels like he learned all of the right lessons from all of that to get to here and to direct this really powerful character piece. And you're right, Aaron Pierre as sorry, is that right? Francis' character, Aaron Pierre's sort of
Yeah.
slow build of just tension and frustration and is it's a thing to behold. And then Lamar Johnson as the now older and dealing with trying to like grief and protect his mother and all of this stuff is also like who's facing many of the same, at least he has that same buildup for slightly different reasons, and it's a wonderful parallel to watch those two time frames play out, and then to see them resolve together at the end. Um, and yeah, I think this is honestly it's one of the best films I've seen in a while, and
Yeah.
and I think most of Canada seems to recognize that this movie is nominated for two, three, four, five, six, seven. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 Canadian Screen Awards this year. 13. Up
Rightly
to and
so.
including, and right up to and including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Lead Performance, 2 nominations for Best Supporting Performance, Best Director, Best Art Design, and then a bunch of like Best Score, Best Casting, and then a bunch of like technical awards. Um, and rightly so. It's not only is it one of the best Canadian films I think I've seen in quite a while. It's also just one of the best films I've seen in quite a while.
Mm.
And it's one of those films where now that I've finally seen it, because we have a couple of friends, mutual friends, who've been one in particular, hi Dakota, who's been raving about this movie since he saw it at VIF. And now that I've seen it, I would be like, yeah, I wish I had seen this at VIF in a theater with a bunch of people. I feel like it would have been uh, at least as, but probably more impactful seeing it with a crowd and with having someone to like a bunch of people around to like debrief with afterward would have been really something else.
Yeah.
And it's
This
also it's
was.
we focus a lot on American racism when it comes to African American, Afro Canadian people. We typically
Mm.
focus on the Asian diasporas and indigenous peoples when we discuss Canadian racism. But it's very interesting and I think very important that we keep talking about Canadian racism towards Afro Canadian people. This movie will make you do that in a good way. It'll force you to reflect in ways that will be uncomfortable and important.
Yeah. It's certainly up there with the best Canadian movies I've ever seen. It's the kind of movie that makes me start thinking a lot about what I don't know if this out too late to qualify for this year's Oscars because it's
No,
listed as a 2022.
it was
So
not.
I'm very interested in like why would this film not appear? Would it appear as a foreign movie in the Oscars? Because it technically is a foreign movie, or is that down to language more than
That's a
geographical
language.
like
As far as I
production
know, that's a
thing?
language thing. So, like
Right,
Canadian, there have been Canadian films nominated for best foreign language film at the Oscars, and they have all been in French.
right. So I'm interested after watching this incredibly made film that's visually stunning as well, and the acting's amazing and the script's amazing, and it is a incredible movie. Why then why does it not feature among lesser movies at the Oscars? Like, is there a bias against Canadian movies or Canadian dramas at the Oscars, does this go back to your comment about it being a regional awards show that it's America first with a few different languages thrown in for the mix? Like, why do we
I think
not
it
see this?
comes I think it comes down to two different things when it comes to talking about the Oscars or the Globes or anything. Is that yes, they are very distinctly regional awards shows, but also like they are also popularity contests, and their popularity contest fueled by marketing campaigns, which are fueled by money, which this Canadian productions just actually don't have a ton of for this kind of thing.
Mm, mm,
It's actually really interesting when, like, one thing, we as Canadians, we're very, very proud of our film industry and how much content is produced here in Canada. But the truth of the matter is that 99% of that content is made by Americans for American audiences. and the
Mm,
actual quote Canadian film industry is very, very, very small and does not have a ton of money behind it. And I think that,
mm,
for a movie like this to make a splash at a big international awards show would take probably, and again, I have exactly no inside information. This is all conjecture on my part, but I think it would
mm,
take more money than a film like this is going to have at its disposal, than a studio is going to have at its disposal,
mm,
unfortunately.
mm.
We did see some Canadian stuff at the Independent Spirit Awards this year. The Porter, which is a CBC show, was nominated for a bunch of awards, and I haven't seen it, but again, it seems like rightly so. But also, that was a co-production with BET, which is an American network. So
Right.
there's money coming from more than one place there,
Yeah.
and and just to come back to a third point, like the Oscars are not the arbiters of quality. Like there are hundreds of movies every year that the Oscars does not recognize that um, are amazing, and they're not just from Canada. There's a whole film industry in most countries, and the Oscars do not recognize any of them. So
Mm.
I, it's a it's a
It's
it's a
just weird.
regional award show. That's what it boils
It's
down
just a
to.
bit weird, isn't it? It's just a bit weird watching this film. At the end of this film, you have that wonderful kind of beat where you realize you've just watched something amazing,
Hmm.
and then the natural kind of reaction to that, because we're so plugged into this, is, oh, I wonder if this will feature in the Oscars. Like this person should get nominated. This movie should be in the pool, and it's so what's the word, disheartening, maybe, I don't know, to watch a film like this and to see it not recognized outside of its regional, like the country's regional awards, is something that makes you question, as we have been doing, like the Oscars in general. But I know for many filmmakers, winning an Oscar, in fact, the Daniels said this, that this is not, winning an Oscar is not a normal thing. Like, don't have this as uh, uh, your point of focus, because it's not normal. Like, just keep making what you make. And I'm sure many filmmakers can give a shit about Oscars recognition, but from the consumer point of view, it's weird for me to watch something so amazing as this film,
Hmm.
in every way, technically, acting, and I want to point out the wider cast as well: Kiana Medeiros, Aisha, Lavelle Adams, Gray as Jelly, and I don't have the mum's name, unfortunately, on my cast
That
list, but
was that Marsha Stephanie Blake, I think is
maybe my
among.
cast list doesn't have it. Doesn't have her, but just everyone. Yeah, Marsha Stephanie Blake. Everyone was just so authentic, and that for me was really the key to this whole thing, is that it felt so authentic, especially as it does a very tricky thing, and it has a couple of scenes of people dancing to music, like, and what's meant to be like cool music, and so many movies get that wrong, or make it just look really out of place and uncomfortable. And the scenes where everyone's getting down at the barbershop to the music, and the camera sweeps around everyone just having a good time, it just felt really real and really true to that culture. And of course, you've got, this is because you've got a director from that culture, and I don't know about the writer, but I'm sure they're from that culture too. And it's it
So
felt very, very real.
Clement
Did you
Virgo
write it as well?
adapted it from, I can't remember, it's like a novel or a novella, but it's an adapted
Right.
screenplay.
Just felt very real. So when things happen, when the racism happens, when the the police brutality happens, it also feels very, very real. So there's a lot of education there as well. Oh, it's
Yeah,
fantastic. What a film.
yeah. David, the writer of the novel's name is David, and I'm gonna probably butcher this, but it's Chariandi, and he is of African and South Indian descent. And yeah, so
Okay. Right.
he's from Scarborough, so like I'm
Right.
pretty sure he's pretty plugged into it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's it's a really good case of, I think, all of the pieces, like all of the right people being in all of the right places for a film
Hmm.
to succeed, for having again, firsthand knowledge and the right sort of in terms of Clement Fergo. I think again the right sort of
Mm,
experience to inform directing this film, and then a couple of young breakout stuff. I hope that both Aaron Pierre and Lamar Johnson get super famous. Lamar Johnson has already been in The Last of Us. I hope we see him in a
mm-hmm,
ton of stuff. And
mm-hmm.
raise your hand if you also didn't know ahead of time that Aaron Pierre is English, because he has a distinctly Canadian accent in this movie. Um, that
Sorry,
is Aaron Pierre is English.
what?
Yeah, he is from Brixton.
Whoa. Excuse me a
Yep,
second.
yep. He's from South London. South London.
He's from fucking Croydon. I've
Yeah,
been to Croydon so many times.
yeah. Apparently, his lair
Oh
was the
my.
toast of Croydon. But anyway, that's a bad reference.
Right, sorry, I'm on Wikipedia. You're gonna have to fill some time while I get over this. Oh,
Yeah,
he's
you've seen him
loads of stage
before.
work.
Loads of stage work. He was also in M Night Shyamalan's Old. He was in the Underground Railroad for Prime. He's been in a bunch of
Right.
stuff. Um,
He was. Oh, is he the rapper in Old?
yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah. Which is a movie I know that
Ah.
you hated because you don't like M Night Shyamalan movies, but I thought he's really good in that movie. He's really good in the part. So, um, yeah, and
Oh,
he's
he's
going to
gonna
be
be. He's in the Blade
he's
remake. Right.
yeah, he's in Blade, and he's going to be in
Rebel Ridge. Something.
yeah, he's going to be the next Jeremy Saulnier movie and a few other things. So I mean, he's on the rise too.
Wow, that's wicked. That's really really cool. Excellent.
Yeah,
Oh, good for him. I had no idea. Jesus Christ. What a
yeah,
bastard. That's my reaction whenever anyone has a perfect accent. It's like, you bastard.
yeah. And just as a side note for anyone who is interested, and honestly, we are Canadian, so we should be interested. The 11th Canadian Screen Awards are on April 16th, and I believe they're being broadcast on the CBC, and they're being hosted by Samantha P. And we should probably watch those because
Yes, we probably
we're
should
never going to
actually.
get more Canadian film if we don't support the Canadian film industry. So again,
It's I
let's do that. Let's do that.
that's a couple of my favorite films from the last year have been Canadian. That's really cool. Like
Hmm.
actual like Canadian productions, not just shot here because it looks nice, but
Yeah,
really
I know at
really
least one of the
scored.
best picture nominees is one you didn't like, but Brother and
Uh,
Royce Boy Sleeps, which both of which I've seen, are both incredible.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I really need to watch that. What's just the one I don't like? Viking.
You didn't like Viking, yeah,
No, I don't like Viking at all.
yeah.
Anyway.
You did not buy into the absurdity of that film, which is, I feel is a
Oh
shame. But
no. Let's not, oh come on, dude. Let's not go back over. It didn't buy into the absurdity of that film. That was my point.
uh,
Anyway,
anyway,
how many
yeah,
stars? How many stars for Brother?
five. I'll give it five. It's
Yeah,
five. It's such a good movie.
yeah.
It's pretty close to perfect.
I agree, and it's that's what I don't get about IMDb ratings. It's 7.4 on IMDb at the moment. I'm like, what is there in this movie that people could not like? Maybe
So
I'm
I'm gonna go
interested
ahead
to
and
know.
say that don't don't pay attention to IMDb ratings. I also don't pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes audience scores.
Hmm.
And it's not. I mean, honestly, look at whatever ratings you want to look at. I don't Doesn't actually affect me in any way. But for
Hmm.
me personally, and I feel like probably for you as well,
Hmm.
the the critics score is a much more on Rotten Tomatoes. And again, just as like a binary, it doesn't mean that it's like Brother is sitting at 94%. That doesn't mean it's 94% good. It means that 94
Hmm.
people out of 100 have liked it, basically.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
in this case, I think it's actually 15 out of 16 logged reviews. But anyway,
Right. Okay.
um, the reason that I personally, well, if I do look at a Rotten Tomatoes score, I only look at the critic score, and the reason for that is that my personal feeling about audience scores, and I don't. This is going to sound like a slight, but I don't mean it to. Is that I don't feel like the
Mm.
average moviegoer watches enough film, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when you get to a point where we're at and where most critics are at, we have seen so many films. It takes you come to appreciate things in a different way. I think a shorter form way to say what I'm trying to say is that your taste becomes more esoteric because
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for different things. You're looking for more technical aspects. You're looking for more nuance and performance, and you're looking for more different things. Like there's plenty of people on TikTok who rave about Marvel movies who've only basically watched superhero movies, and I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
bad. I don't think that's wrong, but like I need more than that now because I watch more stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the same thing. Go back to Cocaine Bear. Like I've definitely seen more. I have definitely seen worse movies than Cocaine Bear, and I didn't like Cocaine Bear. Just again
Mm-hmm.
for the record, but I've definitely seen worse movies, and that's just again it's. But for the average person, like even it's probably a 3 out of 5 for most people, but most people haven't seen that many movies, and that's just a fact, right? Which is why I'm always on team see it for yourself, and why I'm always on team go watch more movies. Like there's no downside to watching bad movies, watching more movies, and watching bad movies will inform your taste as much as watching good movies. So watch it for
Mm-hmm.
yourself and watch it to the end are my two sort of like rules and guidelines for consuming film. That was a bit of a rant. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think it's very healthy on that point to watch everything and don't be afraid of not liking something just because other people like it. Like if a movie doesn't work for you, I think it's equally important then is to be very, very critical or very, very clear and precise about why you don't like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than just doing blanket, no, it's terrible. Like it's the uh like Coco Bear is a good example because I think I'm quite sensitive to bad filmmaking technique because I've been involved with so much of it.
So I'm
It's
just
a bit
gonna
like
and
as an
I'm gonna
English as an English teacher now who spent 15 years teaching high end grammar. It's really hard to read something that hasn't been edited or proofread properly because the mistakes, like it's like the Matrix, the mistakes just burst out at you. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I'm just going to interrupt your moment of self reflection to say you are definitely very sensitive to that, to like minor filmmaking mistakes, and that's not a criticism. Like everyone's taste is everyone's taste. That's totally fine. In the
Mm,
same way that I will basically always enjoy a giant monster film, even if it's shit. Taste is taste.
yeah.
Um, but the one thing I will say is that I think we're just waxing on about criticism at this point. But the one thing I will
That's
say
good.
is I do
Good
think
stuff. Keep it
I
going.
I do think it's important that when people are in our position, I don't want I'm not going to say that we're like tastemakers or anything like that. But we do have a dedicated audience now, which again, thank you very much to everyone who's listening. But one thing I try to do is that when I do dislike a film, I do try to at least point out a few things I think other people would like, because
Mhm.
just because I'm not the arbiter of taste either. So I think it's important to be like, you know what, Cocaine Bear is bad, but Margot Martindale and Alden Ehrenreich are funny in it. Is I think that's important too. Isn't that right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't disagree with you. It's just in this particular instance, there was not a single thing that I would be able to point out as a positive. I also think it's what I take as a given, which it keeps actually coming back to slap me in the ass, is that I keep assuming that everyone remembers a review is a subjective opinion, and
Oh
it's
no,
not,
people don't remember that
and
at all.
it's not fact. And every time that comes round and I get in some random conversation about someone about it, like, why does my opinion feel any more valid to you than your opinion? Why your opinion is not more valid to me than my opinion? I'm interested to hear it and I want to talk about it, but you shouldn't be taking my opinion as fact. Just like I don't take your opinion as fact. And that guy that you had a wonderful interaction with, who seem to forget that all art is subjective and all reviews are opinions. There is no such thing as an objective review. In fact, there shouldn't be anything as an objective review. An objective review is a technical specification sheet.
Yeah,
Anything
an
else is
objective
opinion.
review. An objective review of the movie Brother would be: it is a film. It
Yes.
is 1 hour and 59 minutes long.
There
Features
are reviews
leading
that have that.
performances by Aaron Pierre, and like
And
it's
those are the
it's
worst kind of reviews, right? The
yeah,
worst kind of reviews that we've seen on Rotten Tomatoes are 99% factual statements about the film with one line of subjective opinion at the end. That's not a review at all. It's a press release,
yeah.
and every review is a subjective opinion. And I keep just assuming that people just know that, and it always terrifies me when people demonstrate that they don't know that.
Well, you know what
But
they say: when you make an assumption, you make it an ass out of you and umption. So don't do that.
anyway, what are
Yeah,
we watching next week? Oh, 5 stars for me
uh,
as well, by the way.
yeah,
Five for me. What
yeah.
are we looking at?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea what we're watching next week, but we will be back with something. So do tune in or listen wherever your fine podcasts are served. And I think we're going to wrap it up there based on the look on your face right now.
No,
The
I'm just looking at my DVD collection and I'm thinking, if you want to do Dragon Slayer, I'll find it and watch it. If you want to watch your funny Blu-ray of Dragon Slayer, and we compare it with Krull, and just really, really go for it.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
But that's where we're going to stop the show for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you are new here or if you're old here, we appreciate each and every one of you. And if you've liked what you've heard, please consider giving us a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. That would help us immeasurably. Subscribe, like, tell your friends. And if you'd like to support us a little more directly, you can do so via Patreon or Ko-fi. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, we are now regularly doing bonus content. So this week you'll be treated to a conversation about the movie Dragon Slayer and Idris Elba and a few other things. So if you like the sound of our voices, there's about 20 more minutes of it for you if you subscribe. You can find the show on the social medias, Twitter and Instagram at AwesomeFridayCA. You can find me at SmatthewAF. You can find Simon at Temporary Pen. We record this in Vancouver on the ancestral lands of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. One more time, thank you so much for joining us on this Awesome Friday.
Thanks. Bye.